We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully your day is going well. It is Friday. It's the end of the week, but we've had a ton of shit going on. A lot of stuff. I hope you enjoyed the TikTok live podcast yesterday. I did that for two reasons. First of all, the last TikTok live I turned into a podcast. Everybody seemed to like, and there were more listeners for that show than there were on many other shows that I've done. So if you like it, I'm going to do it. The nice thing about it, too, is if you miss the live, all you have to do is go to the YouTube side of the podcast and you can see exactly what happened during the live. So if you missed it, it's right there for you to watch again. Honestly, the video part of it isn't a big deal because you just get to look at this mug. But for whatever reason, some people want that. You freaky motherfuckers. I'm kidding, of course, kind of. Anyway, I wanted to tell you a story about something I went through yesterday that kind of pissed me off. I don't get angry about a lot of things, and I wasn't really angry. I was more annoyed and confounded. I was doing what I do every day. We do some errands and stuff. I'm a retired guy, so I don't have to rush off to be any place particular. My schedule involves doing TikToks and a podcast, and I do that on my own time. So everything's pretty relaxed. Well, I offered to take my son's car to get the oil changed, a pretty easy task for just about anybody. I have a place where I'd normally take my cars, and I was just going to go there and get the oil changed. But when I got there, and this was a couple of days ago, when I got there, they said, "Oh, Jesus, you know what? We don't have the oil filter you need for this car." I said, "This is a 2012 Chevy. I happen to know that the oil filter for this car is what 90% of Chevys use. So that's a problem if you don't have that." He goes, "We just had problem with the shipping. It'll be in Thursday." So yesterday I go back, assuming I'm going to get the oil changed in this car, to say, "We still don't have it." I go, "Are you kidding me? I mean, is this a problem with the company or just this branch?" Now, what I'm talking about is Valvoline Rapid Oil Change. They've been around for years. And they said, "Well, we get all our oil filters from Brazil." Well, why fucking Brazil? Well, they sent us a bunch and they were faulty, so we had to throw them out and we're waiting for the next ones. Okay, that sounds like a fluky thing, and that could be the case in this situation, except for one thing. This very same thing happened last month at the same location, but a different car. And that was just a standard Hyundai Santa Fe. It's nothing special, nothing crazy, no more uncommon than the Chevrolet I brought in yesterday. So it seems to me that this company, Valvoline Rapid Oil Change, has a problem. Having been in business for myself, if I get faulty products or I don't have products that my clients want, I get on my bicycle and I fix that motherfucking thing. Well, we know this has been a problem for at least a month, so I don't know what's going on. So I figure I will take another shot, and I will go to another Valvoline Rapid Oil Change, and maybe they just happen to have it. Maybe it's just this place. So I get there, and I ask them. I'm in line, and instead of waiting in line and being disappointed when I get there after waiting 25 minutes, I walk in. I say, "I got a dumb question for you. Do you have the oil filter for my car?" He looks at my car. He goes, "Yeah, we have that. However, we have a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" They said, "We don't have the oil for your car." What? It's a synthetic brand oil, 50W30. It's very common. Most cars would use this. So I don't know what's going on with Valvoline Rapid Oil Change, but I ain't going back there. I don't have time to spend 2 hours fucking around and coming back just to get my oil changed. It's a pretty simple task. So I drove a little farther and I went to another suburb nearby, and I went to a Jiffy Lube. And frankly, they were more accommodating. They had the oil filter, they had the oil, they got it in and out in about 15 minutes. So I know what to do next time I get an oil change. I just don't understand how you run a major corporation like that when you don't have the resources, or you don't have the products you need to do the job you're fucking supposed to be doing. If you don't have oil or oil filters for the most common of cars, how do you run a business? I don't know. I just found it annoying, and hopefully I will avoid it next time. Now, I've had some people, I did a TikTok on it because I was so pissed off about it. And people would say, you should change your own oil. Now, listen, I'm not an idiot. When I was young and I had a car and it was the 70s, I did change my own oil. It's not that hard to change your own oil, but I'm 63. Changing your own oil, trying to dispose of the used oil, it's just not fucking worth it. Whatever it costs to get your oil change done, you fucking do it. Now, I know there's some backyard mechanics out there that know how to do this stuff and they take great pride in it, but I don't. I don't want to do that shit. So don't give me that advice. I'm not changing my own oil. There's just no way I'm doing it. If I was 17, maybe, but not now. I'm not doing that. I'm asking a simple thing. I go to a rapid oil change place and they change my oil. Seems like a pretty simple ask. But on this particular occasion, it didn't work out. So fuck Valvoline rapid oil change. I'm pissed off at them at this point. All right, we have some emails. So let's get to them. Hey, Mike, not sure if you'll get this or read it. My emails in recent weeks haven't made it to your podcast, but I regress. Well, as a matter of fact, they have made it to the podcast and I have read them. I know this because I know who wrote this, and I'll reveal that toward the end of the email. But I don't know, maybe you're not hearing it, but I have seen your emails and I have read them, unless there's a bunch more that I haven't seen, and that's conceivable. After hearing your podcast with Old Soul the other day, it made me think about the abortion issue in the Ohio voters. The Ohio voters are about to vote on next week. Our governor and his wife have a commercial running right now saying that whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, this issue on the ballot goes too far. Vote no. Well, Mike, when Roe versus Wade was removed and repealed, what the fuck ever? Ohio is one of the first states to stop abortions, and a 10-year-old rape victim had to go over the state lines to get an abortion. To me, it's not too far, but maybe not far enough. The same governor has loosened our state's gun laws. It's like they don't have the abortion crazy gunman need somebody to shoot at our schools. That was wrong. I know I'm truly sick of simple-minded Republicans and MAGA idiots. Jeff from Ohio. Yeah, I know about that vote, and I know about that 10-year-old girl. That was absolutely tragic. You would think that would have some bearing on how this governor thinks, but apparently not. These anti-abortion folks are fanatical. They're religious fanatics. And I have a theory. If you're fanatical about anything, there's something little off about your emotions. Now, that said, I almost verge on being fanatical about my granddaughter, but she's cool and she deserves it. But when you're a religious fanatic, if you're fanatic about cars, you're missing something there, and your life isn't full. You don't have to be fanatical. You can believe and you can support, but when your whole life is encompassed by this one topic, you got a fucking problem. All right, the next email says, "Hi, Boomer. In the words of William Macy to Francis McDormand in Fargo, I'm working with you on this thing. Boomer, I'm a believer. In fact, I've got 2 loser buys dinner bets outstanding that Trump won't be the nominee. And I'm not talking Howard Johnson's all-you-can-eat fish fry. I'm talking those joints where the shrimp cocktail is priced on the per. A big dinner guy like you knows what I'm talking about. Capitol Grill, if you make it to DC. I get it. But help me by extending your thought process just a bit. He won't not be the nominee because he runs out of time or money. There's always time and money, and he won't quit on his own. He knows the second he loses political power, the entire world will feed on him like piranhas. So that implies that somebody else does something to prevent him from being nominee. He won't be in jail. Our justice system moves too slow. It's been almost 3 years to get there. He'll go to jail, but not before the convention. He will lose in the primary. Will he lose in the primaries? Maybe. Would some legislative intervention eliminate him? Doubt it. Would a sense of right and wrong suddenly rise from the ashes at the convention and Republicans do the right thing for democracy? Doubt it. Give me your thoughts, taking away any premise that involves him quitting on his own. Because one thing that cockroach motherfucker is determined, and he's literally fighting for his life. Best, Garage Door Jeff. P.S. I would highly recommend to any of your listeners to eliminate Morning Joe and replace it with your podcast. It's a much better way to start the day. I never realized how much that show was aggravating me. I still watch Nicole Wallace, though, and if having a mini crush on her is wrong, then I don't want to be right. I'm with you. Nikki, PSS, Nikki with Chris as VP. Nikki Haley and Chris Christie. That's their ticket. Remember where you heard it first. Jeff, I'm going to tell you something. I say the things I say based on logic and the facts I know. Given that, I wouldn't use that as a premise to bet. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe that he's not going to be the nominee. I truly believe that. But you're putting pressure on me here, motherfucker. I'm going to be on the hook for your dinner if I'm wrong. Now, what you have to understand is, because I'm a normal guy, I'm frequently wrong. And as I've said many times before, my wife points it out fucking daily. I'm just looking at the situation and some of the things that you've excluded, you have to consider. First and foremost, once we go through all of these trials and these indictments and that sort of thing, it's more evidence comes out. He's not going to be that appetizing for the Republicans. I honestly believe right now, as it stands, the Republicans don't want him to be the nominee. Now, whether that stops him from being the nominee, I don't know. If you had common sense and logic, you would not have Donald Trump as the nominee. He lost by 7 million votes to Joe Biden in 2020. He's done nothing to gain more votes. In fact, he's lost support, so he's likely to lose even bigger. Common sense tells you that. So the Republicans shouldn't want him as the candidate. Now, again, that requires common sense, logic, and decency, which the Republicans don't have. So we can't really count on that. But you can see the toll what's already gone on is taking on Donald Trump. He's not wearing very well. He sounds confused. He's incoherent, even more so than he used to be. I don't think he'll be in a physical condition to do it, an emotional condition. Like I've told you before, this particular lawsuit, the civil lawsuit that's going on, may be the most devastating thing to happen to him, because it takes away everything that he identifies with: money, power, prestige, all of property, all of that stuff. It's going to take away all of it. So the Donald Trump you deal with now, or the Donald Trump you dealt with in 2016, is going to be vastly different than the Donald Trump after you've sucked all the life out of him. I don't know how you will react to it, but it's not going to be good. I think Donald Trump's stock will diminish as these things happen. And remember, this lawsuit is going to end in the next month and a half or so. So it's not like we're waiting a long time for that to happen. I think this is going to take a lot of wind out of his sails. It's going to cause all kinds of problems. And Donald Trump will be at a point where he's just not feasible to be a nominee, not even for the Republican Party. Now, this will also expose him to a lot of people who maybe support him now. He will lose some support between now and the primaries. he's losing support every day. He'll lose more and more and more. And it's going to come to the point where it's just not going to be valuable to have him as a nominee. Can I give you a specific reason why he won't be the nominee? I can't. But I can tell you this, in my heart of hearts, I know he's not going to be the nominee. If you want to bet dinners on that, that's cool. But you have to understand, I don't have any scientific part of this whole belief of mine. It's a gut feeling based on what I see and what I know. I do everything in my life like that. And generally I'm right, but I'm not always right. And that's cool too. There's no shame in being wrong. There will be times you be wrong. But I think this is such an extraordinary situation with Donald Trump. He's being put through more than any human I know of has ever gotten through. And his narcissism will keep him buoyed for a little bit, but eventually it's going to take him down. He'll either get physically sick or he'll get so mentally sick that nobody wants anything to do with him. I just don't think he's going to be the nominee. And if you do win, based on what I told you, just remember there's a customary commission. I'm not going to go into it now, but you know what I'm saying. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Good luck with the bet. I wouldn't make that bet based on what I'm saying. I'm going with a feeling and a gut. There's any number of ways he's going to be taken out of the nominee. And that's the point. There's a lot of possibilities that are going to take him out of it. And all we need is one of them to come through. So I feel confident that they will. One of them at least will come through. All right. The next one is from Javier. Hey, Boomer. Javier, really enjoying your podcast while driving to work. What are your thoughts on the puppet judge from Florida on the documents case? Bias doesn't begin to describe that orange bitch. Where is the case heading? Well, that's interesting. We heard some things yesterday that are troubling, not surprising, but troubling. Donald Trump's lawyers went to Judge Aileen Cannon. She's overseeing the classified documents case, and they say they want to delay it. And you know as well as I do, they're more than happy to delay it till after the election in 2024. And she didn't come out with an answer right away. She said she's going to think about it. Now, we know that Judge Aileen Cannon is a bit biased toward Donald Trump. She is certainly a Trump-la-fuck. So people are very nervous as to whether or not she's going to delay it. Remember, she already set the date for May of next year, which is more than enough time to get everything together. But of course, Donald Trump's team wants to extend it out as far as they can. And frankly, I don't really understand what they're going to gain out of this, even if they accomplish that. If she comes back and says we're going to delay it till after the 2024 election, I trust that Jack Smith has foreseen that and has a plan how to deal with it. In fact, Jack Smith sent a motion saying to her, please don't be manipulated by Donald Trump's lawyers. This is why the timing works. This is what you've said. There's no reason to make it longer before the trial starts. And that's just kind of setting the tone. It's sending a message saying, we don't like this idea, Judge. Go ahead, fuck around and find out, because if you do, we're going to appeal it to the 11th Circuit, and this may be this judge's downfall. This may be the thing that will cause her to recuse herself or to get herself kicked off the case. She seemingly got away with a lot of stuff siding with Donald Trump, but I think Jack Smith is just biding his time. He's set a trap. And I think this particular trap with this extending the case past the election may be the one that Jack Smith is going to use to get her tossed. Aileen Cannon is not a smart judge. She's not very bright. Jack Smith is incredibly bright and very meticulous. So you have to trust Jack Smith in this case. But over and above all that shit, here's what you've got to understand. That's one case. Now, if that extends past the election, so the fuck what? The lawsuit's going to be done soon. Georgia's going to happen quicker. DC is going to happen quicker. We don't need all of these cases to come to fruition before the election to take Donald Trump out. There's 91 felony charges against him. We only need one, maybe two, to take him out of the picture completely. And to think that there won't be one or two gained out of 91 felony charges is just crazy. The odds are so against it. He's not going to run the table on it. So say he gets charged with 10 felonies. He's gone away. Now the documents case will go ahead, and it may go after he's in jail or after he's convicted. So what? So what? The goal here isn't to bury him in years in jail that he can't possibly serve. The goal here is to get him out of the narrative, take him out of the picture. And if it's one case, I mean, if it's Alvin Bragg's case up in New York regarding the Stormy Daniels, I don't care what it is. We only need one case to take him out. And if one of them is extended out past the 2024 election, and I don't believe Jack Smith will allow that to happen, but even if it does happen, who cares? He's going to be taken out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I still get people coming to me saying, oh, I think he's going to get away with it. No, he's not. It's virtually impossible. With as many charges as he has against him, there's no way he runs the table. He is going to get convicted of multiple charges, if not tens of charges, and he's going to be done. That's already going to happen. He's done. So don't worry about the Florida thing. Jack's got it. And even if it does go by the wayside or gets delayed, doesn't fucking matter, because Donald Trump is going away anyway. All right. Thank you, Javier, for that email. Next one starts out, hey, Mike. Well, our so-called Governor Abbott came out this week claiming to have a deal with the Texas House on a school voucher plan that passed the Senate already. But the deal he supposedly had was more per student than the Senate won. I think that means they got started over. They got to start over and negotiate. But a Republican never wants to know what the truth is. Last I heard today, this special session is over Tuesday, and the House said they don't have time to debate and pass something. Hell of a deal, huh? Sounds like Abbott is bad at math, like the National House of Republicans. Speaking of the National House of Clowns, I got an alert from the Washington Post saying a standalone Israel support package passed with the help of 12 Democrats. What the fuck? What the fuck are they drinking or thinking, knowing it goes nowhere in the Senate and Biden said he'd veto it if it did? I get Republicans voting for it, but why the Democrats? Not being a smartass as usual. Really, want your take, as I'm not sure. Enjoyed the TikTok live, and all the political talk it brings is the real reason politicians want to ban it. Don't let anyone fool anyone. Talk with you soon, Jace from Texas. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I didn't know that until you just told me that there were 12 Democrats that voted for this standalone Israeli package. And there's more to this package than just that, which would put in question why the Democrats would vote for it. They want to give $14 billion to Israel to help them in their war. And I'm cool with that. The plan with most everybody else, certainly the Democrats, was to get money for Israel and Ukraine. But we know the Republicans love Russia and love Vladimir Putin, so they want to marginalize Ukraine and just let Vladimir Putin run roughshod. But that's not going to happen because, as you've said, the Senate won't allow it, and even if they did, Joe Biden would veto it. So I don't know why they're dog paddling here, because they know it's not going to work. I think this new Speaker of the House wanted to feel like he got a win, and it's a win in the sense that it passed the House, but it's never going anywhere. But that's so typical of Republicans. Make a lot of noise, put on a show, and then accomplish nothing. That's right in their wheelhouse. Why the Democrats voted for it, I can only assume it's because they maybe have a strong Jewish base in their district, and they felt like if they voted against the Israeli thing, that they would get in trouble over it. I mean, this isn't about what's right or wrong. It's about what's expedient for any given politician, and that's Republicans and Democrats. So that may be the only reason why that happened. But the other part of this bill that makes it less appetizing for anybody with a reasonable mind is they want to give $15 billion to the Israelis. That's cool. But they want to offset it by cutting $14 million from $14 billion from the IRS budget. Now, professional economists have said if you do that, it will end up costing you another $13 billion. That's ironic coming from people who are supposed to be fiscally conservative. But again, this is all for show. They never thought this would come to pass, and it won't. It's really ironic to me that they want to cut the IRS for two reasons, because then they can say, well, they saved all of us from the stormtroopers that are the IRS. But in addition to that, they want to protect their rich contributors, the 1% that we give all kinds of tax breaks to. The problem with those folks, they don't pay taxes, some of them legally, some of them illegally. By having these IRS people in there, it would increase more collections in IRS tax payments, which means making money. If you were to pick one thing in the US government to cut, the IRS wouldn't be one of them. That's the one thing that brings in money to this country. Everything else is going out. IRS brings in money. So the idea to cut the budget or defund the IRS is absolutely ridiculous. But frankly, Republicans are absolutely fucking ridiculous. Thank you, Jace. The next email comes from Old Soul. We always look forward to that. Hey, Boomer, I just watched your Georgie Stays video. I agree with your two reasons as to why Democrats didn't vote to expel George Santos, but I think there's a third reason: pettiness. Just briefly tell you what that's about. Republicans in New York wanted to expel George Santos from the House of Representatives. And it's a good choice. I mean, he's a pathological liar. He's a grifter. He's a money launderer. He's a thief. He's corrupt. If anybody should get kicked out, it should be him. They took the vote to the floor, and the final vote was what, like 226 to 212 or something like that. And so he's staying in the House because you need 2/3 of the House to vote to kick him out in order for it to take effect. The interesting thing is there were 31 Democrats that voted to keep him in the House of Representatives, which causes people to say, what the fuck? Why would the Democrats do that? And in the TikTok, I explained there's a few reasons why they would do that. And the only reason I know this is because Jamie Raskin, who voted to keep him in the House of Representatives, gave an explanation, and I watched it. I don't necessarily agree with this point, but I understand it, and we'll talk about it in a moment. But so there's two reasons, as far as I'm concerned, as to why they would do this. But she's saying there's a third, and that would be pettiness. She says in May of this year, Republicans rejected Democrats' resolution to expel George Santos from Congress. Republicans stated they would refer the matter to the House Ethics Panel, and then they made the media rounds stating Santos had not been convicted of any crimes and deserves due process. Today, when asked by the press why he didn't vote to expel Santos, Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell stated that the matter has already been referred to House Ethics and that the representatives, Santos has not been convicted of any crimes and is entitled to due process. Now, the Republicans' antics just keep coming back and biting them in the butt. The analogy that comes to mind is a hot stove. For far too long, Democrats have been reaching across the aisle to stop Republicans from touching the hot stove. Well, this new crop of House Democrats seem to be of the mindset to let Republicans touch the hot stove so they will learn it's hot and shouldn't be touched. Unfortunately, the Republicans keep touching the stove and they keep getting burned. I'm starting to wonder how many times can Republicans touch that hot stove before they figure it out. I don't know that they'll ever figure it out. Boomer, you don't think they'll keep touching it all the way into 2024, do you? Well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised if they do. LOL. Thanks, Boomer, old soul. I do think they'll keep touching the stove until 2024. They're going to keep doubling down and tripling down until they get slapped in the face with a big blue wave. It seems ridiculous. It seems like they should know better at this point, but apparently they don't. I don't know what to say. Now, Jamie Raskin said the reason he voted to keep George Santos in the House is because he felt it would set a bad precedent. And the precedent is exactly what Swalwell said. He hasn't been convicted of the ethics committee or the law. And that would set a bad precedent if you kick him out before that happens. Now, why would he say that? It's not so much that he cares about George Santos or doesn't want him kicked out, but what Jamie Raskin is doing is what Republicans never do, and that's looking beyond the end of his nose. If they kick George Santos out without any kind of conviction, then it's going to be a free-for-all when the Republicans have the same situation. So he's looking ahead. He doesn't want to give Republicans that option to do this when they're in that same situation. So he's trying to protect what might happen to the Democrats when the Republicans find themselves in a different position. In addition to that, it's kind of like what Old Soul said. I think some of these Democrats are comfortable and just letting the Republican Party destroy themselves. They know even if they get them to think reasonably, they're not going to get anything done. So better to let them fuck themselves over and implode, hang themselves, if you will, and just wait it out till 2024. And then when the 2024 election comes up, of course, they're going to lose, and they're going to lose big. So I think those are the two things that are the reason why the Democrats voted to keep George Santos in. And let's be honest, what's going to happen? We kick him out. They'll have a special election. They'll bring somebody else in, and that guy might be better, or that woman might be better. At this point, George Santos is lame, literally like a lame horse. He can't accomplish anything. He has no respect, no credibility. That's a better thing to have in the Republican majority than to have somebody who's legitimate. I don't know that that second one is true, but I can see how it would come to people's minds and just say, let the Republicans fuck themselves over. We've gone this far. We can't do anything anyway, so let them destroy themselves. Next one says, hey, Mike, poor Eric. Donnie douche forgot to tell him, if you lie in front of the judge, you're going to look very stupid. He didn't like it, even started to show a bit of a temper, probably just trying to make daddy proud. Yeah, Eric is probably not the favorite amongst Donald Trump's children. Of course, we also have Tommy Tub of Shit holding his ground, even as other MAGAs are admonishing him. What was the rationale of the genius Republican Party for electing him? Well, he's a good football coach. Of course, he can run the government. Fucking idiots don't even realize he was never even a good coach, just paid a lot of talented high school players to go to his college. Does the Republican Party even see how much they're embarrassing themselves? I don't think so. I don't think they do either. Last, would love to see one of them idiots who keep trying to badger you take you up in the debate challenge. We both know that's not going to happen. Them trying to use their wits is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Be well, Paul. Yeah. if you listened to yesterday's podcast, you know that we had some Trumplefucks. But I got to be perfectly honest, our moderators did a great job, and we didn't get taken down, and they didn't get to create the chaos in the comments that they have in the past. And but I got a lot of DMs after the fact. Oh, you just don't want to debate. That's why you had me muted. I had one woman send me a DM. She said, you got to do something with your moderators. You just don't want to talk about things. I wasn't saying anything bad. I just wanted to get your reaction. I said, well, you know, when there's a flurry of people getting muted because they're crazy Trumplefucks, sometimes people can get muted. The wrong people can get muted. That can happen. And if it did, I'm sorry about that. But I'm curious, what was it that you said that got you muted? She said what she wrote was, Joe Biden's too old to be president. He can't walk. He can't talk. He has no business being president of the United States. And I said, well, you were lucky then. And she said, why? I said, you got muted for saying that. And when I hear those kinds of comments, that tells me Trumplefuck, whether you want to admit to it or not. And while my moderator may have muted you, I would have fucking blocked your ass. My moderators are fine. They volunteer their time. They get no money. They get nothing. They're just helping out. So I'm not going to tell them how to do their business. As long as they can keep me up on a live for an hour, hour and a half without getting taken down, they're doing their job as far as I'm concerned. And I appreciate their efforts every fucking time. So, and I told her, I said, if you really want to talk about this and you want to debate this, you're more than welcome to come on the podcast. See, there you can't take me down. And I'll give you plenty of room to talk. We've got a whole hour or more, and I'll let you say your piece. But then understand that I'm going to ask you questions. And instead of diverting and distracting and delaying, I need you to answer them if you're capable of doing that. And of course, I told people all you have to do is email me at rationalboomer@gmail.com. And that offer stands to any Trumplefuck who thinks they want to enter the octagon, as it were. And we'll talk about this. And maybe you can teach me a lesson. I wouldn't bet on it. The two guys that were Trumplefucks that have come on the show, it's really funny. I've never heard from them again. They've never made another comment, and they don't want to come back on again. And I think that's probably a wise choice on their part. But it's really hard to debate these people unless you have some control, because they're constantly diverting, constantly distracting. They don't answer questions. Why I'd like to do it is so I can illustrate what a media person should do when they have Donald Trump or one of the MAGA fucks on. Don't let them off the hook. Never let them off the hook. If they don't answer your question, keep asking the question. Keep asking the question. They want to move away, you pull them back into the corner until they answer. Ultimately, they get embarrassed and they run away, and you win. So you're right. I don't think any of them will take me up on it. But we'll see. We'll see. As we get deeper into this campaign season, the remaining Trumplefucks, however many there are, they're going to get more heated, and they're going to come after me and other people like me on TikTok. And that's fine if they want to. But they're going to have to step up and talk if they truly want to debate. See, that's not what they want. They don't want to debate. These are people that are small-minded and have small followings, and they can spew their shit all day, but nobody hears them because nobody cares about them. Nobody listens to them. So what they do is they come into platforms like mine or other people like me where there's a lot of people, and then they start spewing their stuff. And sometimes they remind me of the people who live in a house that gets foreclosed on, and then they destroy it before they leave. That's kind of what they're trying to do in the case with the lives I do or lives other people do. The fact of the matter is we just can't allow them to do it. We've got to hold them accountable, and we've got to shut them down. I'm happy to do it if given the opportunity, but I'll be very surprised if I ever get that opportunity again. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Well, over the last couple of days, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump testified in Letitia James' civil lawsuit against both of them, their daddy, their company, a few other folks. And to say it didn't go well would be an understatement. In fact, the damage done to Donald Trump and his family by his oldest son's testimony, Don Jr., Thursday cannot be overstated. This comes from a legal expert, somebody smarter than me. Donald Trump Jr., while testifying in the fraud trial into the family's business Thursday, said he couldn't remember details regarding several documents he was shown in court, adding that he relied on the Trump Organization's accountants and legal department to handle such matters. Where the problem lies there is he's basically saying, I don't know nothing from nothing. That's the accountant's fault. A couple of things he fails to understand or remember. Accountants can't just pull shit out of their ass. They've got to get the information from somewhere. That somewhere would be the company and the people running the company. That would be Don Jr. and Eric Trump and Alan Weisselberg. So it can't be the accountant's fault. They just work with the information that was given to them, which was inflated incredibly by Don Jr., Eric Trump, Donald Sr., and Alan Weisselberg. Now, Trump Jr. was then asked about a 2017 loan document from Deutsche Bank, which he signed, identify himself as attorney in fact, which he said he didn't recall signing. Doesn't matter if you can recall signing, that's your fucking signature. He also claimed to have no knowledge of the organization's financial statements. That sounds like perjury to me. He goes on to say, as a trustee, I have an obligation to listen to those who are expert, who have an expertise of these things, he said. I wasn't working on the document, but if they tell me that it's accurate based on their accounting assessment of all the materials, he said, these people had an incredible intimate knowledge and I relied on them. But where did they get this information? They got it from you, you dumb motherfucker. In a tweet this Thursday, MSNBC's legal analyst Lisa Rubin said that she cannot overstate how damaging these admissions are for Trump Jr., as pleasant and relatively yawn-inducing as the review of the financial document sounds. Not only does the Attorney General take issue with the veracity of those representations, but the fact that Trump Jr. signed it after this investigation is underway without having more than a cursory discussion with the same accountants to whom the representations were made is stunning, she wrote. See, the problem is he appears to be blatantly disregarding of what was done. Now, even if he did the financial statements himself, that would cause him problems because they were false. But if he owns the company, which he did, or runs the company anyway, and he has blatant disregard for whether it's truthful or not, that's also illegal. Either way he answers this, he fucking loses. And apparently he doesn't understand that. Now, his brother testified too. On the witness stand in the Trump civil fraud trial in New York, Eric Trump denied ignoring an appraisal of the Trump Organization's luxury Seven Springs property in Westchester County. Eric Trump has long been characterized as being one of the principal executives involved in running the Trump Organization since his father stepped back to serve as president. The trial brought by Letitia James centers on whether Trump and his two adult sons fraudulently misstated the value of their assets to get more favorable loans and other financial deals, which of course they did. The state attorney, Andrew Ammer, attempted to show Eric Trump multiple emails and calendar invites from 2014 and 2015 to demonstrate that he was personally involved in an appraisal by Cushman Wakefield. Still, he said that he had nothing to do with it. Here's an email from his email account to these people talking about the very thing that he says he knows nothing about. Now, David McCardle, he placed the total value of the property's undeveloped lots between 30 and 50 million, said the report. Now, Trump's 2014 financial statement, in contrast, valued the property at 291 million, including 161 for just 7 of the undeveloped lots. 161 million for just 7 of the undeveloped lots. So if you go from 50 million to 290 million, you can see where the ridiculous inflation is. Now, Amber asked, can we agree that Mr. McCardle's valuation in relation to the easement donation he was doing was disregarded? Asked Gamer. To which Eric Trump replied, no, the exercises are apples and oranges, nothing to do with each other. Well, I'm an idiot. I can see that it has everything to do with it. Earlier in the day, Eric Trump snapped at prosecutors as they attempted to go over his financial statements. This comes after attorneys questioned Eric Trump's older brother, Don Jr., who alleged he was not involved with the property valuations and left that primarily to accountants in his employ, even as he admitted he signed off on at least one of the fraudulent valuations. I wasn't involved. I didn't know anything about it, but I did read the valuation and I did sign it. You see where the problem is there. The trial is primarily about determining how much the Trumps owe in damages. The guilt is already there. I shouldn't say guilt, the liability. They are liable for fraud. Judge Engeron already ruled for James on the merits of fraud occurring. James is seeking $250 million in fines and the dissolution of the Trump organization. I think $250 million is the bare minimum. Michael Cohen said he sees as much as $600 million and the dissolution of the Trump organization, meaning they can do no business in New York. That seems like that is a foregone conclusion. The liability was found by the judge. That's already been decided on. This court case is just going to decide how much they have to pay, what the punishment is. And essentially what's happened, George Conway said what's going to happen is they're going to have to liquidate most, if not all, of the properties just to pay off the state with whatever fine they're stuck with, and they will be left with nothing. This is clearly a corporate assassination. They're doing away with the corporation. It won't exist anymore. And what's going on in this court case, Donald Trump seems to think he can talk his way out of it, but it's already a done deal. It's not whether you're guilty or not. We've already verified that you're guilty with the judge's decision. It's just a matter of how guilty you are and how much you're going to have to pay. So I don't even understand what the point of Donald Trump's sons lying on the stand. I mean, they open themselves up for potential perjury, which is cool with me. But we'll see if we ever get to that. I don't know that they'll call them out on perjury after destroying their lives financially. Now, Ivanka was scheduled to testify today. And she said, short notice, I'm a little busy. It's a school week, whatever that means, and I can't do it. So they pushed it back to Wednesday. Now, apparently she's been hearing about her brother's testimony and how well that's going. So yesterday she said, I'm going to appeal the decision that I have to testify at all. And I think they should stay the whole case while they determine whether I win the appeal or not. Yeah, she fucked up there because the appeal came the same day and they said, fuck you. Ivanka Trump lost her appeal to try to overturn the order, forcing her to testify in former President Trump's civil fraud trial. Ivanka Trump must testify after New York appellate court rejects her bid to freeze her trial subpoena. She's slated to take the stand next Wednesday after her father's testimony on Monday, which is going to be the interesting one. I mean, here's Donald Trump clearly mad about his kids having to testify. He's angry, he's spitting mad, he's unhinged, and he's going to be under oath. Oh, that should be an interesting fucking experience. I only wish that was on TV. We're going to have to settle for what the reporters tell us, but I'm sure it's going to be a shit show. The appeal request had been filed earlier this week. Attorneys representing Ivanka had argued that because she had been removed as a defendant from the case due to the statute of limitations, she shouldn't be subject to a subpoena. So she was involved. She was guilty. They just felt as though the part she was involved in was outside the statute of limitations. Ivanka, that doesn't mean you're innocent. It means you got fucking lucky. Now, however, Judge Arthur Engeron had rejected that argument because Ivanka still has relevant testimony to give about her father and two adult brothers' role in the alleged scheme to fraudulently overvalue the Trump organization's property. So, Ivanka is going to have to testify. The case has already been partially ruled in favor of the New York Attorney General Letitia James on summary judgment, making the remaining trial primarily an assessment of damages. James wants $250 million in fines and the dissolution of the Trump organization. It's probably going to be worse than that. Ivanka has separately asked for a pause in the trial, arguing that compelling her to testify during a school week would create undue hardship for her. Do you really think that Ivanka gets up every morning, dresses her kids, makes lunch, and drives them to school? I have a feeling that's not the case. I'm thinking Ivanka is still in bed after the kids have been dressed by a nanny, made lunch, and carted off to school. Yeah, school week. Nice try, Ivanka, but you're going to have to testify on fucking Wednesday. So good luck with that. Now, you remember the Judge Tanya Chutkin in D.C. regarding the January 6th insurrection trial. She put a stay on a gag order, and then Jack Smith said, this is fucking ridiculous. He's not stopping. Take the stay off, which he did, which made Donald Trump angry, as you might expect. Donald Trump is asking an appeals court to invalidate the gag order now imposed on him by Tanya Chutkin in the 2020 election interference case. The order narrowly prohibits Trump from attacking court officers or witnesses, but doesn't categorically prohibit him from discussing or criticizing the case against him publicly. But even this is too much for the former president. Given the gag order's extraordinary nature, one would expect an extraordinary justification for it. Yet, they ain't one. President Trump has made months of public statements about the case, but the Department of Justice, the prosecution, submitted no evidence of any actual or imminent threat to the administration of justice. Instead, when asked about the supposed threat to the case, the prosecution admitted, of course, this prejudice is speculative. Is it really speculative? You were threatening and calling out employees of the court. We know this because there's videotape of this shit. Donald Trump's team will say virtually anything, whether it has any truth at all. It's fucking unbelievable. But it doesn't matter. He will not get this gag order reversed. He's just not going to get it reversed. Now, they base this speculation. The district court entered a sweeping viewpoint-based prior restraint on the core political speech of a major presidential candidate based solely on an unconstitutional heckler's veto. This is the filing from Donald Trump's team. The gag order violates the First Amendment rights of President Trump and over 100 million Americans who listen to him. President Trump's unique, powerful voice has been a fixture of American political discourse for 8 years and central to the American fabric for decades. He's also been responsible for the destruction and demise of our democracy, overturning an election, an attempt to overthrow our government. So don't make him out to be some kind of orator that's been a positive for this country. He's been the guy that screams fire in a theater. They can say whatever they want, but it's not going to work. Chutkan recently suspended the gag order as Trump sought to appeal the matter, but reinstated it over the weekend. All of this comes as Trump faces a separate gag order in the civil fraud trial in New York, which has led to Trump being fined twice as he's violated the judge restrictions. That judge is getting a little pissed off right now. I'm thinking Donald Trump may be having some trouble very soon because he continues to violate the gag order. This is exposing our judicial system as having no teeth. I understand the complexities of jailing a former president, but we've never seen a former president behave like this. So extraordinary situations call for extraordinary actions. Now, we were talking about this situation down in Florida and the prospect of Judge Aileen Cannon allowing Donald Trump and his team's suggestion of delaying this case. They've set the start date for the trial as May, and of course, Donald Trump and his lawyers want to extend it past the election. They issued a motion to the judge, and the judge didn't answer immediately and said she would come out with an answer later, which got everybody worried that she's going to cave in to Donald Trump again, and that wouldn't be surprising. Now, Jack Smith warned the judge in a motion in the case against Donald Trump not to be manipulated into delaying the trial. Lawyers for former president have attempted to have the case in Florida adjourned until after the one in Washington, D.C. has taken place because, as they put it, the schedule of trials currently requires President Trump and his lawyers to be in two places at once. Lawyers for the former president have attempted to have the case in Florida adjourned until after the one in Washington, D.C. has taken place because, as they put it, the schedule of the trials currently require President Trump and his lawyers to be in two places at once, which isn't true. Judges in these situations, and these are rare situations, there are very few people that have this many court cases going on at once, but they talk to one another. They can work things out so one doesn't affect the other. It's a pretty common practice with judges, and Judge Aileen Cannon could do this as well as Fani Willis and Judge Chutkan have done it. So that's kind of a bullshit excuse. Smith, of course, is a U.S. Attorney Special Counsel. He argued in a court filing entered on Thursday that Trump's legal counsel had failed to disclose that they had filed a motion the prior evening to stay the proceedings in D.C. until their motion to dismiss the indictment based on presidential immunity is fully resolved. In a typographical error, Smith ended the filing by writing, "This court should allow itself to be manipulated in this fashion," and it shouldn't allow itself to be manipulated in this fashion. Now, a spokesperson for Smith's office confirmed the missing word to Newsweek. We intended for it to say this court should not allow itself to be manipulated in this fashion. Newsweek reached out to a lawyer representing Trump via email for comment on Thursday. Now, the case in Florida, which is being presided over by, as I said, Judge Aileen Cannon, regards the retaining of classified documents at Trump's Mar-a-Lago, Florida resort, which were recovered by the FBI. He didn't do anything wrong, but the FBI went there and actually took the stolen documents off his property. They're of over 13,000 documents seized, 103 of them had been deemed to be classified. Now, the documents were thought to have been kept by Trump after he left the White House. Federal law treats classified documents as property of the U.S. government, and so they must be returned or turned over for archiving when the presidential term ends. Of course, the top secret items are the most important, the most illegal, but frankly, any document that was created while he was president needs to be turned over, whether it's classified or not. That is also breaking the law. Now, the Florida case is one of the two brought against Trump by Smith. Another in D.C. relates to allegations the former president obviously tried to overturn the 2020 election. In all cases against him, Trump denies any wrongdoing and has pleaded not guilty. Well, of course he does. But he is guilty. The evidence is there. The witnesses are there. And he's fucking done for. Now, we were talking about this earlier with one of the emailers. House Republicans on Thursday approved a $14.3 billion aid package for Israel, setting the stage for a fierce showdown with Democrats in the Senate and the White House, who have savaged the GOP bill for excluding Ukraine funds and cutting IRS coffers. Now, it's interesting. Mike Johnson seems to want to support Ukraine, but of course, MAGA doesn't. He wanted to pass this bill. And basically what he said was, we will pass the Israeli aid bill, and then we'll deal with Ukraine. But we know how Republicans do business. They say they're going to do something, and then they don't. And all too often, the Democrats have been pulled into that. Oh, yeah, we'll do that later. Let's just get this one done. And then they pull the rug out from underneath them, or they play Lucy to Charlie Brown by pulling the football up. So the Democrats aren't having it. Some Republicans aren't having it. And the Senate won't pass it. And Joe Biden will veto it. So this bill, as much as it's a win in terms of it passing in the House, it's going nowhere. It's just all wasted time of something that time is of the essence. We need to get this straightened out. And frankly, the Speaker of the House that we currently have doesn't have the wherewithal, the intelligence, or the competence to get it done. The 226 to 96 vote fell almost entirely along party lines, with 12 Democrats joining all but 2 Republicans to move the bill through the lower chamber. Now, the Democratic opposition extends to the Senate, where the Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced earlier Thursday that his chamber would not take up the deeply flawed proposal. So what's going to happen there is, not only would it not pass if voted on, Chuck Schumer's not even going to put it up for a vote. You know, Mitch McConnell did that many times over. Remember, there were 500 bills or so sitting on his desk that he never even brought to the floor to vote on. And that's what Schumer's going to do with this particular bill. They'll send it to the Senate and it will be disappeared. Nothing will be done about it. Now, the Biden administration has threatened to veto the House legislation, arguing in a statement that it is bad for Israel, for the Middle East region, and for our own national security. The vote nonetheless marks an early victory for newly installed Speaker Mike Johnson. And that's what this was about. Give him a win, even though it's a failure. We know the Republicans are all about performance and not about substance. And that's a perfect example in this situation. Yay, we passed a bill, but it's going nowhere. Now, of course, Mike Johnson is trying to unify the GOP. And that's going to be a hard thing to do after kicking McCarthy out. You have at least 2 factions in the Republican Party that don't agree and will never agree. And they really need the Republicans to unify to get anything done. And it's been it's been since 2022, we're talking about almost a year. and they haven't been able to do anything and create any unity at all. Now, the aid package was Johnson's first big legislative effort as Speaker, and it provided a preview of how Johnson, the mild-mannered Louisiana lawmaker who skyrocketed to the speakership amid GOP chaos, plans to steer the House through a number of legislative lifts in the weeks and months to come. But if they all end up like this, he will never accomplish anything, which is not a surprise when we're talking about Republicans. Johnson's decision to isolate the Israeli funding and marry it to IRS cuts. That's what I brought up before. He's saying we'll give Israel $14 billion, but we're going to cut $14 billion from the IRS. We know how the Republicans hate the IRS because they might have occasion to go audit some of these wealthy people who aren't paying taxes and then get them to pay taxes. See, that's the ironic thing. The one way this country collects money is through the IRS. So why would the Republicans, who are fiscally conservative, want to do that? Why would you want to limit the money coming in if you want to give tax breaks to the rich? See, this is why the economy goes to shit every time they get power. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Now, Representatives Tom Massey of Kentucky, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia were the only Republicans to oppose the measure, citing concerns about U.S. encroachment in foreign affairs and the costs to American taxpayers. It wasn't about Israel. They don't want to pay for anything for anybody. It's all got to go to tax breaks for the rich or to the Defense Department. But the GOP's tactics have also complicated the path for getting the Israel aid to Biden's desk, pushing the Senate onto its own strategic path, a path Johnson has warned can't pass the House, and raising new questions about how the feuding chambers will find compromise almost a month after Hamas's deadly attacks. See what I mean? They have to do something with Israel. They have to do something with Ukraine. They have to get this budget thing passed, and they've got to do it by November 17th. It's not looking promising. What's going to happen is that, much like Kevin McCarthy, Mike Johnson is going to have to fold and bend to Joe Biden. Joe Biden knows this. He's much smarter than Mike Johnson. He's more experienced. And that's what's going to happen. But in the process, that's going to piss off MAGA. And that might put his speakership at risk. And then we're just back to where we fucking started from, getting nothing done and not being productive at all. So we'll see what happens. I don't know how it works because the Republicans can't agree, let alone agreeing with Democrats. All right. The last story doesn't have anything to do with politics per se, but it's a story that's been ongoing for some time, and it looks like we finally got a resolution to the situation. The cryptocurrency king and FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried was convicted on 7 counts in his fraud trial in New York Thursday, ending a storied ascent that brought in millions in political donations. So it is political in that sense. He was a big donator of money to politicians. But what he was doing was so shifty that started some criminal probes across agencies. And then FTX collapsed. So if you had a lot of money in FTX, like some celebrities did and other folks, you lost that shit. I've never been a strong advocate of cryptocurrency, and it's not because I don't know for sure if it's legit or not. I just don't know enough about it to invest in it. It just seems weird that you've got this stuff that doesn't really exist. They tell you it's worth money, so you buy it, and maybe you make money, or maybe it just all falls apart and all the money goes away, like in the case with FTX. Bankman-Fried was convicted of charges including wire fraud, conspiracy to commit securities fraud, in his case tried in the Southern District of New York. The jury reportedly deliberated for just over 4 hours. So they were pretty confident. This was a pretty cut and dried case. Bankman faced several charges over allegations that he defrauded his customers and investors of billions of dollars in the scheme that prosecutors have called one of the biggest financial frauds in history. Following the collapse of FTX last year, Bankman Fried was arrested in the Bahamas in December of 2022. Somebody should have told him that they can still get him in the Bahamas. He should have gone to the Arab Emirates or something where they couldn't get him. But they went down there, cuffed that bitch, put him on a plane, and sent him back home. And now they prosecuted him. They convicted him, and now he's going to spend some time in jail. Here's a guy that had a whole bunch of money, was trying to have an impact on politics by making large donations. And much like some Republicans, now he's going to jail. I'd be interested to find out who he donated to, because they'd have to be a little bit culpable here as well. Anyhow, Sam Bankman-Fried, arrested, convicted, going to motherfucking jail, where he should be. All right, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day. Oh, I was going to tell you, we do have a guest for tomorrow. And I thought this was going to be one of the Trumplafucks coming to be on the show. I was getting all excited. But this is a gentleman who describes himself as a Reagan Republican. He's not a fan of Donald Trump, but he wants to talk about Donald Trump, so it'll be interesting to hear his take. He does consider himself a Republican and a conservative. I got one question for him. How's that trickle-down theory working for you? It should be an interesting show. He seems like a nice guy. I'm not going to beat him up unless he starts with me first, but I doubt that's going to be the case. I'm sure it'll be a very cordial conversation, and I'm looking forward to it. And that should be tomorrow's show. So again, I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.